Welcome back to the Cozy Cottage Homestead. If you're an English muffin kind of person, I'm going to show you how to make English muffins. This recipe is inspired by Miss Angela at Shepherd's Hill Farm 1. She has a YouTube channel. She also had a verse on her recipe. This was back from her blogging days. She does no longer do blogs, but I had saved a lot of recipes from her from about 20 years ago or so. And it says, "And the angel of the Lord came again the second time and touched him and said, Arise and eat, because the journey is too great for thee." 1 Kings 19:7. So if you're interested in English muffins, stick around. Today we're going to be making English muffins. These are very good to just eat as soon as you make them. They're also good to make up a big batch like I'm going to do today, to put them in the freezer. So let me grab my apron and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm going to read y'all the ingredients first. Very simple ingredients. Y'all should have most of these in your pantry already. Actually, you should have all of these in your pantry. They're all pantry staples. A half a cup of shortening, 4 to 3 teaspoons of salt. I'm going to use 3 teaspoons of salt. 2 to 3 teaspoons of sugar. I'm going to use 3 teaspoons of sugar. 2 cups of hot water. 5 cups of just regular all-purpose flour. And 2 tablespoons of yeast, or I believe you can get away with one of the packs of yeast, the little packets. I buy my yeast in jars. It's cheaper that way. And then just 2 tablespoons of the yeast. I'm going to go ahead and get started on it. So you're going to need a large bowl. The first thing you're going to do is put your hot water in there. And your shortening. And you're going to try to melt your shortening in the water. Of course, it's not wanting to come off my spoon very easy. And your water is going to be fairly hot at this point. Right? You can use a thermometer if you want to see what the temperature of your water is. I usually just touch it, stick my finger in it, and see if it feels like it's warm enough. And it feels like it is. You could use a cooking thermometer to see if it's the right temperature. But usually after the water is hot, your shortening melts, and then it's usually at the right temperature, which is a little warmer than room temperature. So now we're going to add our yeast. Let me make sure I didn't miss that. I think that's right. Yes, add the yeast now. It's been a little while since I've made these. The yeast should bubble just a little bit and get foamy. Mix it all up really good. If it's too hot, it will kill your yeast. If it's too cold, it will not activate your yeast. So it has to be just right. Alright, we're going to go ahead and add our salt and our sugar. And give that a stir. Now we're going to add our 5 cups of all-purpose flour. And I'm going to bring y'all in closer in just a minute, so don't worry, I'll let you see what I'm doing. I'm going to try to add just a little bit at a time and go ahead and mix that up. Now this English muffins is not one that you have to just mix and knead for like a long time like other breads. It does really good just to stir it and mix it a little bit at a time. I like to go slow with it because it makes it easier to work with the dough. as you keep working it, the flour comes off the side of the bowl and it just keeps mixing in. Okay, go ahead and add the last little bit. And eventually you'll have to get in here with your hands. So just keep working it until all the flour is incorporated into your dough. Scraping the sides and the bottom. Okay. I'm going to leave it like this and move y'all closer so you can see what I'm talking about. Alright, so I brought y'all in a little closer so you can see what I'm talking about. There's still some flour around the edges. So now I'm going to go ahead and get my hands in it. We're to that point. Just scrape the sides as good as you can. If you don't get all of it, it's alright. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and dip my hands in some flour and sprinkle just a little bit on top. I'm going to get my hands in there and mix that last little bit in there. You don't want to over knead it at this point. You just want to work it a little bit to get it all in there together. Okay. Once your ball of dough comes all together, you can just roll it around your bowl and it will clean up the rest of the flour that you missed. Okay, so now it's all together. Show you how clean the bowl is now. I'm going to go ahead and flour my surface and show you the next step. Well floured surface is what we're looking for, and I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit on top so when I'll put my hands in there it won't be quite so sticky. And I'm just going to roll my dough out on my surface. And you just want to knead this just a very little bit. Just a couple of flips and flops and you're good. Alright, just like making any other kind of bread, except this is going to be English muffins. And you want to roll this out as close as you can get to about 1/8 of an inch thick. Frugal tip, you can use a wide mouth canning lid, the ring. And about that thickness works good too, just a little bit thinner to cut your English muffins with. Or you could use a tuna fish can that's been cleaned out and the ends cut off of both of them and use it for a cutter for your English muffins. So I'm just going to dip this in flour, line it really good. And that's about the thickness. I know you can't really see it right now, but it almost comes to the top of my, we'll call it my cookie cutter, my cannon lid. So you just want to go all the way around and keep cutting them. You want to get as many of them as you can out of the dough. So let me go ahead and move this out the way. I have a cookie sheet lined with a little bit of cornmeal. I just shook it all around to get it all over the place. So I'm going to set it here on the side. I don't have much room. And I'm going to gently pick up my English muffins and set them on the cookie tray. I'm just going to do a few more to show y'all the process. Then I will finish cutting them out. And then you will roll up the excess dough and do the process over again until you use up all of your dough. Okay. And then after we get our tray filled up, we're going to set these English muffins in a warm spot, covered up with cheesecloth for about an hour until they double in size. And I'll bring y'all back and show you the next step from there. Alright, so we got the griddle heating up on top of the stove. You also could use an electric griddle for making your English muffins. You just want to sprinkle a little bit of caramel on top of your pan. You can spray it with pan spray or just oil it really good first. Go ahead and set your English muffin, flip it upside down when you set it on it. And you're going to let it cook for about 5 to 7 minutes on each side. I think I could probably get 2 more on there. I'll just cook these up and then I'll finish cooking them. And I'll show you what they look like when they're all finished. I'm going to need a little bit more room. They don't really swell up. They just poof up just a little bit more. But you don't want your heat up too high because it will make them brown too fast. And when you use them whenever you cook them on a grill, it is easier just to flip them by hand. But since I'm using the cast iron on the stove top, I have to be careful not to burn myself. And all stoves cook different, so it's kind of hard to tell you what setting to put your heat on. But this will give you a general idea. You just have to play around with that part. Alright, it's been about 5 minutes and I checked one and they're ready to be flipped. Just be careful, they're going to be really hot. And your caramel will kind of brown on your plate, on your skillet, but don't worry about it. You just scrape it off before you do the next batch. And I'm going to go ahead and set my timer again for about 5 minutes. Because now my griddle is really good and hot, so as you go along, it takes less time to cook the next batch. And if you do have a smoke alarm, you might want to cut that puppy off because it's probably going to go off by the time you get done cooking all 18 English muffins. Or in my case, I just put a crack in the window. Man, that sounds really southern. I guess you would lift open a window, not actually going to put a crack in the window. I like to move them around just a little bit when they're cooking. You can see they're poofing up really nicely. And if you want to do a test run on these English muffins, keep one of your plastic bags from the store-bought, slide them back in there and put them back in the refrigerator, and nobody's going to know the difference. That's how delicious these English muffins are. Thank you, Miss Angela at Shepherd's Hill Homestead #1 on YouTube. Been the best little English muffin recipe ever. Go ahead and check one and see. They need to go just a little bit longer. Alright, this batch here is finished. Just going to flip the hot side up and let them cool off. I'm going to continue cooking the rest of them, and I'll bring y'all right back in just a few minutes. Alright, so I have all of our English muffins done. Some may be a little darker than the other ones, but that's okay. If you like them a little lighter, just cook them a little less time-wise. After you cook them, you want to get a little brush like this and just brush off the extra cornmeal that may be on them, and then you would just put these in freezer bags, or you can wrap it individually in freezer paper. Then you can put it in your freezer and just pull one out whenever you would like to eat one. They are very delicious, very good. Let me see if I got one cut. You want to cut it about 3/4 of a way through so that it holds its shape and freezes well. But you can tell they look just as good as store-bought English muffins, except they're a lot better because they're healthier, made with the most minimum ingredients that you can have. So if you're an English muffin person, you might want to give this recipe a try. So thanks for joining me today, and farewell, Homestead family, friends, and neighbors from the Cozy Cottage Homestead.